This is our introduction to cells. It's Unit 1, Topic 1, and we are mainly covering off on organelles, and we'll get to prokaryotes versus eukaryotes later on. So cell theory, right? Cells are the basic building block of all living organisms. They are the smallest unit of life, and the cell theory states that all living things are made of cells. Cells arise from pre-existing cells, and the activity of organisms is the sum of all those interactions in those cellular units. And there's many versions of this cell theory around. Cells do specialized jobs, or they can be default and unspecialized, so like stem cells, right? They contain organelles, which are really small little organs to help them actually meet their needs so they can function. And here we have red blood cells, we have an onion root tip, we have intestinal cells, and we have sperm cells. So we can see that even though they are all cells, they are all structured very differently for their very different functions. Cells have basic requirements, right? Water being the first one. It's got to be present in the cytoplasm and in the extracellular fluid. They all need oxygen. It is necessary for cellular respiration to produce energy. Carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis, but it is a waste product of cellular respiration, but photosynthetic organisms need it. Inorganic minerals and things like that are used, so say nitrogen is used to make proteins, phosphorus is used to make nucleic acids and DNA and things, iron is needed for our red blood cells to actually move oxygen and carbon dioxide around the body, magnesium's part of chlorophyll, all those kinds of things are required as well. We need organic compounds like carbohydrates, lipids, nucleic acids, vitamins, all those kinds of things that every single cell will need to survive. It needs a source of energy. Now, it might be able to create its own energy through cellular respiration. It might be able to photosynthesize using the energy from the sun. And it has an ability to remove waste. From every chemical reaction that's occurring, there will be waste products, and not all of them can exist and stay in the body. So we're going to talk about some organelles, and an organelle is a specialized subunit within a cell that has a specific function, right? It is a very small version of something functioning within that little cell. It's like little cellular machinery, right? And there are a lot of them. Your syllabus specifically mentions a few of them, and I would absolutely recommend doing some supplementary reading with your text here too, please. So cytoplasm and cell membrane. Our membrane decides what can enter and exit in a cell, in what ways and in what quantities, depending on what the cell needs. The cytoplasm is the liquid inside the cell where other organelles are suspended. There's lots of nutrients dissolved in there as well. So think of it like a water balloon full of hair gel, so it's a bit squishy. Our nucleus in all those cells, it has a variable location. It contains genetic information or material like DNA. It's surrounded by its own membrane, right? So it's a membrane within the bigger cell membrane, and it regulates all the activities of the cell. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. We hear that one a lot. It's involved in cellular respiration and produces ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy currency of cells. It's really abundant in things like muscle cells that need a lot of energy all the time. The endoplasmic reticulum, there's a couple of kinds. There's the smooth and the rough. It's basically one big membrane that is continuous with the nuclear membrane. So that membrane going around the nucleus continues out in big folds, and it becomes the endoplasmic reticulum. It synthesizes proteins on the rough endoplasmic reticulum through the little ribosomes, and it's also involved in folding and modifying and transporting proteins. Now, ribosomes are like protein machines. They are proteins, but they make proteins. So it's like proteinception. It's all about protein production for them, and that's occurring on their little workbench. So what it does, it reads strands of nucleic acid for the instructions on what to string together to make a big protein. It doesn't have a membrane, and they can be free floating around in the cytoplasm, or they can be attached to that endoplasmic reticulum. The Golgi body packages up proteins and it secretes them in little bubbles called vesicles, and it works really closely with the endoplasmic reticulum, getting all those proteins that have been prepared and shipping them off to where they need to be. Chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, which is a light-trapping pigment. It is plant cell specific. We don't have them, and it's eukaryotes only, and we'll talk more about that later on, and photosynthesis occurs here. Lysosomes are animal cell specific, and they're a little fluid-filled sac that release enzymes. They can digest and recycle molecules in the cell, and they can also trigger cell death. So even though that sounds like a really grim concept, say, for example, in this little tadpole to frog, that tail needs to die off, so those cells need to disappear. A vacuole is a closed compartment filled with water and fluid, and its size and function and contents all depend on the type of cell we're looking at. So it might be for isolation of bad things they want to get rid of, like wastes. It can be for storage of energy or sugars. It can help with the pressure and changing the shape and maintaining the internal environment within that cell. And it's part of all plant and fungi cells. Some animals have them, protista and bacteria as well. Centrioles are only found in animal cells. They're really interesting in that they participate in mitosis to make these little spindle fibers to help pull apart cells during cell division. And more recently, they've been found to be involved in the creation of little flagella, so like a tail on the end of a sperm, and cilia, so little hair-like things on the outsides of cells. A cell wall is found in plant cells, algae, fungi, prokaryotes, but can be made of different things. It lies outside the cell membrane. It protects, supports, and maintains the shape of the cell, and it prevents excess water uptake so those cells don't burst. Now, this is from an old textbook that we used to use, but it is a very good summary of all of this. I'm sure any textbook would have a very similar one, but I want you to make sure you check the specifics on the syllabus there as to which ones it is asking you to do.